All right, so we're on the sixth episode of the Young Aussie Entrepreneurs podcast, and I'm here with Julian. Great to have you on.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for inviting me.
I was looking at, all your stuff. You've done a lot and achieved a lot in your life, especially in business as well. So I just wanted to talk about, just to start, to let everyone know, talk about who you are, a bit more about what you do in your business. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Background is in as a chef, actually.
Okay.
And then I got into sales for a little bit and then got back into cooking, did a 4-year apprenticeship in 13 months, and
Okay.
then took over the restaurant 3 years after I started cooking. And then we sold that and then got into sales.
Hmm.
Then I ventured into the recruitment industry, mortgage broking, CRM we've got. And then I actually just closed down my sales company about 3 months ago.
Okay.
And now I've got solar projects. We have a new digital signage company. And outside of that is business consultancy and sales coaching. So apart from that, with 3 kids and a wife, I'm pretty free.
It's you got a lot on your plate. Well, so I didn't quite catch it. How many companies do you have right now, or are they all under the?
Uh, there's only 2 or 3 real companies, and then
Okay.
the rest will be partnerships. They're my own, and then the rest are partnerships or ventures in different projects. And like the solar farm, I don't have a company in
Okay.
solar farms, but we source panels and logistics for solar projects down here in South Australia across the country. And then actually a mate of mine just reached out last night. I forgot that one, and he's looking for support in the motorsport industry. So they make carbon fiber monocoques for and car parts for Le Mans and Formula 4. So that could be a fun passion to get involved with.
I love that because it's for you. It sounds like it's not just about doing it for the business. You actually love and you know what you're doing, and you're trying different projects in different industries. I guess you could say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Is
it's been fun. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it wasn't always like that. First, you got to develop some skills and some work ethics and essentially the connections in these industries. And then you need to almost show that you have value in those industries. Otherwise, knowing these people doesn't really get you very far unless you can actually do something for them.
yeah. I get it. So just on that, obviously you've had a lot of achievements in your business and life career. What's sort of been the most defining achievement for you? That's I guess where the reason that you are where you are now.
There's been a couple, and I guess it's not just in a business sense. There's
Yeah.
been a couple of sort of what my mum would call character building moments where there's been a situation that occurred where my character was tested, or there was a goal set in front of me, and it took me several years to actually achieve that goal. But because the goal had been set out and I actually achieved it, that gives you confidence to move into something else. So I think a lot of people are too scared to try something new. I think especially in your, from 20 to 30, go and just try everything, but really like put a lot of effort into it. And if you think it's, I don't know if I can swear, but if it's a shit job,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do the best you can in that job and then see where it ends up. There's so many things. Career defining, when I opened up my sales company 10 years ago,
Okay.
or started in the sales industry, and then I opened up 8 years ago, sorry.
Yeah.
That was a pretty career defining moment when I actually have, the ACN of my own company and the keys to my own location. That was pretty cool. Taking over the restaurant was a big thing for me because the chef that I was working under, essentially didn't think that I could do anything better than him. And then when one of the customers came back to the back of the kitchen and said, "Oh, who cooked that tonight?" And I said, "Oh, it's myself, and Paul's not even here." That kind of proved to me that, we're on par with each other, and he'd been cooking for 20 years, you know what I mean? So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
'Cause you talked about before, there's a certain set of business skills that you need before you can start branching out into different industries. What do you think those skills are from your experience?
Um, Knowledgeable about an industry, but in saying that, Richard Branson, I'm sure, doesn't know how to fly a plane, and yet he owned Virgin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then also he set up different companies. He's been involved in the startup phase through to scale to franchising, for instance, or multinational sort of organizations. So, biggest thing is when you start, I think probably in talking to the group with young Aussie entrepreneurs is really everyone's going to be thinking quite big.
Yeah.
I'm never one to stop that thought. I mean, if you ask my wife, she thinks she can't even understand how I, how she basically says, why are you doing so many things? And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm doing that much. And then you kind of put it on paper and you're thinking, there's a fair bit there, but I enjoy that,
Yeah.
Biggest thing is resilience. And what I would really encourage people getting into business or early in their business days, and I'm talking early, the first 10 years, right? Early is not 6 months, the first 10 years, is create a sickening work ethic that all your friends think you're crazy to do what you do. And I'm not talking about time spent, I'm talking about productivity.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where, get efficient in businesses. Run business as lean as possible. Don't try and set up a business and then buy the fancy car. It doesn't really matter. And once you have the car, I promise you it won't mean much to you anyway. Especially when you get further in, like I'm 36 now, 3 kids, things are very, very different. But when you're young, you want to prove to everyone that you've got everything right. And essentially, or you want to have that persona that you're killing it, right? In actual fact, what you probably would be better is to kind of almost be understated in looks and appeals and what it looks like on social media, but be fucking loaded in the bank, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to do, especially if you're coming into a business and you're, 20 years old and all of a sudden you're making 6 figures and you're turning over, 10 grand a week. That's a little bit too much money for a 20-year-old to understand, but almost to the point where get good at managing your finances. If you're going to work in the mining industry, and you spend 4 or 5 years fly in, fly out, and you're making 150, 160K, make sure that your car is not the new Maloo. Make sure that you don't have a jet ski. Make sure you don't have the new motorbike. Make sure do you know what I mean? Whereas most times, set yourself up, buy a property, get a second one, maybe looking into the third one, and then start to look for all these stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you touched on as well, you talked about, the hustle. You talked about time management and actually just executing within a short period of time, because it's great that a lot of people want to just go at it, do 16, 18-hour days, but if you can be productive within a 4-hour period, you're lethal.
Yeah, I reckon if you can be productive for 16 hours, you're killer.
Yeah.
Right. And then because a lot of people, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But probably for 10, 15 years, you need to you need to do both, because the smarts aren't there yet.
Of course. It's a good point.
Right. So work smarter, not harder. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that we can educate ourselves on these days, between Crush It and, the Kerwin Ray and the Tony Robbins, and there's so many resources that we can actually draw upon, which is amazing. But essentially we still need to do the work.
That's right. I think just on those influences that you talked about, I think the thing a lot of people struggle with these days is the conflicting views of all these different influences. One's going to tell you to invest in property, the other one's going to say it's the worst thing you could ever do. And a lot of people are sitting there listening to 30, 40 mentors at once, but you kind of have to understand where the source of their data is coming from.
Absolutely, 100%. And I've said that before. We've set up another company, which actually I've got to get back to, the Wealth Creation Institute, which is essentially just trying to teach people how to become wealthy across any form, from cryptocurrency to property development, to shares, to stocks, to bonds, to gold, to everything. It doesn't mean you need to buy everything, but if you're going to be wealthy, you need to create an understanding, or at least have a thought process of where the money is actually going to go. Now, if you're going to talk to a mortgage broker or a real estate agent, he is going to say that housing is the most solid, market you can move into. Why? Because he sells it. If you're going to talk to a stockbroker, he's going to say, well, his returns over the last 30 years are better than anything else. Why? Because he sells stocks. If you talk about cryptocurrency, they're going to talk about how volatile the marketplace, and there's you can actually make a lot of money very, very quickly in a volatile marketplace, depending on your risk tolerance, right? But essentially, they're selling their own product.
That's right.
Look at all the business coaches, and I will never say this, but every business coach says you need a coach. Why? because it funds their industry.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, you're right. Just be mindful of where that data is actually coming from, but
Yeah.
also what worked for Gary Vee doesn't work for Tony Robbins, which, he doesn't, Gary Vee, I literally saw just the other day or within the last 48 hours, Gary Vee doesn't meditate,
Mm.
and all these people that wake up at 4:00 in the morning, do the cold showers, the meditation, and then they get ready for 2-3 hours before the day.
Yeah.
For some people that won't work.
Yeah, that's right.
2-3 hours that's a long time to prep your mind to get ready.
Mm.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. And I mean, if you look at people like Warren Buffett, if you're going to study just him, he's reading what, 4, 6, 8 hours a day. If you're just going to study him,
he reads 5 hours of company profiles a day.
You have to look at where he is on his business and wealth cycle. He's right up the top. He's done it all. He doesn't need to work and push as much as he used to.
Exactly.
Which I think
that's right.
Is a really interesting point.
Yeah, well, that's 100% right. He's, I think, I looked at the numbers the other day. Look, I'm not very good at numbers unless unless you're in my own business with dollar signs in front of them, then I really take notice. But it went from, like, let's say, for instance, 13 billion to 80 billion or whatever. Like, someone's going to correct me on that anyway. But it grew quite dramatically in the last 10 years. But the first 10 years, it didn't really do much. When I say it didn't do much, went from, let's say, 5 to 13 or whatever the number is, right? For argument's sake, then it's really exploded over the last 20. That's how compounding interest works, right?
Yes.
But the difference is he's doubled down, and I think he's had 20% growth for the last, which is incredible for an investment structure.
Yeah.
You'd be happy with double digits, especially with the cash interest rate now. I don't know. I think it's like 1% or so. It's just got dropped literally today. So if you leave it in the bank, you might as well put it under your pillow, right?
That's right.
So you just have to understand, even the Cohen Rays of the world, which he's, across everything these days, he's like the Australian Gary Vee, essentially.
Pretty much.
He's already been hustling for 20 years, right?
That's right.
And literally, he's honestly just exploded in the last, what I would say, probably 3 or 4 that I've seen, probably even less than that, where he's literally just gone bam out of nowhere. It's not really out of nowhere. It's 20 years of hard work.
Yeah.
And learning the skills and educating himself and going into the army and researching high performance in the army and those sort of things. Like, that's what he's done for the last 20 years. So,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So just on that, what would be, from everything you've experienced in business and different asset classes, what would be your ideal path to wealth if you were to start over again?
Business, I've never got a bigger return off business than I have off anything else.
Yeah.
Because I can take a business and spend, let's say, 10, 20 grand in it and turn it into $500,000 within the year.
Yeah.
Like, even I've done it several times where I've turned losing 4 or 5 grand a week into $1 million business in 15, 18 weeks. So it was, but that took me 15 years to work out how to do that. Right.
Yes.
It took me 10 years in one industry to work out how to build a sales company from literally losing 4 grand to making 20 or 30 grand a week in 3 or 4 months or 6 months. It took me 10 years to work out how to do that. Right. Mm-hmm. So you got to understand, business for me is always going to give a bigger return. Obviously more risk if you don't know what you're doing, or if you knew. That's why I would advise having an advisor with you, or someone that's done that, been there and done that across multiple industries. Mm-hmm. Because the benefit of having multiple industries rather than double down in, let's say, just in the retail industry, unless they're the top of the retail industry, is you're going to have different views and different challenges from different industries. That's kind of, they can mesh in together. That's where, when I went from the restaurant industry into the retail industry, I found it the same. I found it exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. So part of that formula that you talk about, taking a business from 5-10K to $500,000, does that come down to not pulling out profits and going and buying a fancy car and putting it into growing your team? What does that come down to for you?
Yeah, 100%. Firstly, it's not your money.
Yeah.
Right. Firstly, it's not, and it's only $500,000. It's fuck all. It's only $500,000. So when you've only ever made $25,000 a year, $500,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in business sense, it's not much. You know, there's businesses that turn over $10 million and lose money.
Mm,
Right?
exactly.
Uber's $1 billion company and on the stock market and loses money. I don't know if it's still losing money, but I definitely know it lost like $132 million not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So just talking on Uber, because it's a really interesting point. I understand that their game plan, from what I see, is that they are trying to not lose capital, but it happens. But their goal is to just dominate the entire market. And then once that happens, they will become profitable. In your business sense, do you try and just dominate a market, keep it low profits, reinvest everything, or do you just start small, scale slowly, but keep it highly profitable along the way?
well, most businesses are not Uber.
Yeah, of course.
You mean, and anyone that compares a business plan to an Uber is
Yeah.
a great way to be negged out pretty quickly. You know, we are talking about the freaks of the marketplace.
Yeah.
You know, right time, right climate, right product, right capital, right investment, bam, done, right marketing, and it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got, you know, I think 2003 or 2006, Spotify didn't exist. There's so many companies that didn't exist, and now they're like, Snapchat just sold for however many billions of dollars, and it's a very simple concept.
Mm.
But it's going to be very difficult for us to replace the Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And just remember, no other company has 30% market share or 25% market share of the world.
Yeah.
Like, that's 2 billion people on the platform. Like, that is a huge market share worldwide. I don't know any other company that has that type of market share of active use. I don't think there would be one. Surely not.
Yeah.
25% of the world. You'd be happy at 1% of your industry, let alone 25% of the world.
Yeah.
You know, even 1% of your industry is quite a lot of money.
Coca-Cola is probably the only, and Apple, probably the only other two I can think of, you know?
Yeah, in regards to brand, you know, and the distribution market, that's possible. But active users, even though people know about it, not that maybe I don't know how many people drink Coca-Cola, but, you know, actively every day, I don't think there's a platform or there's a service out there that Facebook would target, or that Facebook would be small than, you know?
Yeah. So I want to get back to the start of your journey. You talked about you had a sales agency, but you closed that down. How did you, coming from a restaurant background, how did you actually get into sales? I mean, sales is important in any industry, but how did you start?
Yeah. So I started door to door up on the Gold Coast. Yeah. So then I literally had a badge and a folder and built a 7-figure business in 3 years out of it, and then moved down here, rebuilt it. The first little while was a bit tough, and then we had some amazing golden years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to rebuild it a couple of times because of, like, you know, different culture that crept into the marketplace. I was trying to transition out of that business, and every time you take your foot away from, or take your eyes off the prize,
Yeah.
you know, bad habits creep in, and essentially had to start from scratch 2 years in a row. And then back of 2019, I'm like, all right, I'm done. That's it. I had enough. So that's good.
So how did you learn sales?
Door to door, like I said, that was knocking on doors, mate. That was my initiation. You know, learning how to.
No training programs, no nothing, just straight.
Not back then. So I just finished writing probably the world's most comprehensive face-to-face sales guide.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is because I looked for one and I couldn't find it, so I wrote it myself. And yeah, we literally had 5 pages of our sales program to begin with. Now it's 60 pages long.
Okay.
And yeah, we just kind of had to learn it. And then that's probably why I understand the customer and consumer psychology so well.
Yeah.
Speaking to 100,000 people face to face, selling everything from fundraising to, you know, working in the solar industry now, understanding what people want and how they want it sold to them, between different personalities, demographics, social statuses, age groups, job descriptions. 100,000 customers will teach you how and what customers, that's how they want to be sold to. And sales is it's got a very negative connotation to it, I think, even still, if not, it hasn't changed, where no one likes to be sold to. And I don't necessarily agree with that. You know, if you're a great salesperson, I tell you what, people are coming back and people are referring people to you. So sales is a very unfortunate connotation to it, where every business owner needs to learn how to sell.
Yeah.
You know, any problem of your life can be fixed by it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like every single store and shopping center, like every industry needs sales. It's so important. How does sales change for you? Because you've been in multiple industries. Does it change much between industries? I mean, you've got different scripts, I assume. Um,
Yeah, the basic concept of sales is still the same. Find the need, fix the problem.
yeah.
That is sales. If you find a need and your problem and your solution fixes that problem,
Hmm.
there is no other way apart from they don't like you that they're not gonna buy your service.
Yeah.
You need to show value in your product. If you've got a high ticket item and you need to show value in that item, that's just going to serve it. And remember, and the biggest thing about sales, not everyone can buy from you, even though they want to.
Okay.
So there is that angle as well. But most people fall into this trap of, oh, look, it just either wasn't the right product, or no one wants to buy it, or all the BS excuses and why they're not selling. That's rubbish. That's just an ego.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, were you relentless? Because obviously, like you said, not everyone's going to buy your product. Some won't buy now. I think it's only 10, 20% buy now, and 80% buy later, and 10, 20% will just never buy.
Never buy.
Yeah.
That's 120%, but
yeah.
You talk to a lot of people, mate. I like your work ethics.
So what was your process like? I mean, have you done cold calling, and even, because for people listening to this, what sort of process should they follow? Should they focus on follow-up, prospecting? What should they focus on?
Well, sales is all of that. Sales
Yeah.
is not just, most marketing companies, and I've spoken about this a lot on different podcasts recently, where most companies and most marketing companies are looking for new customers.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't stop that. What I am saying is the cost of acquiring new customer is quite expensive. That's your most expensive part, right? Once you've got them in the database, I literally spoken to a friend of mine in the solar industry, literally before I got on the phone call with you. He's got 42,000 people that he can contact.
Wow.
That is, I said, you are sitting on a bloody gold mine there. Like you should never have to work again in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, all you need to do is just connect. Even if you sign up 10% of those, which is not really that much, seeing that they've called you, right? Or somehow you've gotten their details. 10%, 4,200, solar installs. That's some good cash, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But most people forget about developing the relationship, and remember, just a relationship and a rapport and relationship is different. Rapport means we like each other. We can do business. Fantastic. We don't necessarily need to go after work for drinks. That's a relationship. But in a customer long-term value orientated focus, you want to formulate that relationship and keep that relationship moving forward.
Yeah.
In any way, any excuse to get in touch with them. Like if you're in the real estate industry, any excuse to get in touch with your customers. We've got a listing down here. Did you know that this house just sold over there? Do you know that your area just went up? Do you know your area just went down? Do you know that, old mate, just like any excuse to get in touch with your customers without selling is a great way to build a relationship.
So for any industry, are you suggesting that not always should people be looking to sell someone? Should they just be always in contact with people? And
always, yeah. For and some I was talking to a real estate agent the other day, and kind of having 3 or so tiers of people.
Yeah.
One is I'm ready to buy right now, in the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. One is I'm ready to buy in the next 6 months, and one might be I've just bought and maybe this investment property in a year or 2 years once I've got some equity in the house, whatever. So that or maybe even another tier where you've got referral basis. So on the people that have just bought, active referral, cool. Who else do you think would want to sell their house? And there's so many different ways that the real estate industry is not captivating the audience. They could be doing way better, but that's, I guess, why people hire me.
So other than always just being on the phone with people, how important do you think technology is and social media in just keeping in contact with people? Do you use it a lot in your businesses?
Not for any other reason. I don't do it on purpose. It's just kind of, if there's content out there that I think that needs to be said, then I put it out there. If I feel there's value in someone's going to learn something. I literally just started, when I started putting out content a few years ago, I just started doing Facebook Lives, and I did 21 in 21 weeks. Every Tuesday was, Tuesday with Jules, and it wasn't for anything. First, it was just to get, I don't know, we know what it's for. Honestly, I think it was just to get some confidence in speaking. That was, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I didn't actually think there was going to be, hundreds or 1,000 people watching. So, and then you just, and the biggest thing, if you're going to be in that sort of active content delivery, I don't do it for likes or comments or followers, or I don't or new clients. I don't really do it for that. All I think is someone somewhere may get something from this, and that's kind of good enough for me. Yeah. Because we never know who we're inspiring, right? And we don't think, we just think we're doing our job. We just think we're just going about, and we don't think we're anything special. For most of us, it's just like, that's just what we do, right? But you never know who needed to hear that message. You never know who really got something out of it when you think you just, and I'm not talking about just delivering stuff on Facebook just to get your face out there, like telling how your day was. No one cares. But actually like a lesson or something that you've learned or something that's inspirational, something that can actually help people. I think that's quite important,
Yeah, definitely. I also do think it's very important just to constantly be putting not just content, but meaningful content. But I also think that a lot of people get stuck on that, because I see arguments of, people talk about two different ways to interact with someone. You've got your normal funnel where you nurture the lead, whether it's with content, you indoctrinate them and then sell them a product, or, and other people suggest that just go for the sale straight away. And, if they fall through that sale, then just nurture them and then go for the back end sale. What do you think is important? Is it nurturing the lead first, or going straight?
Well, it just depends. It depends on the way you want to do business, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, at least buy me a drink.
Yeah.
At least learn my name. At least, and look, it happens all the time where I've got people that have done NLP and all of a sudden they want to change my life and da-da-da. Yeah. It's like, I got, actually, perfect example. I got pitched by someone. I literally saw NLP master, and I don't have a problem with people learning. That's not what I'm saying. I just have a problem with positioning themselves as the expert, right? And she wanted to reach out. So it's a 6-week sales course for $1,600. She pitched me on a 6-week sales course for $1,600. And I was like, well, I try not to be, I'm not trying to be a dickhead about it, but I was I said, I think you should research your market better.
Yeah.
And if anyone should be teaching that course, I should be teaching you that course.
Yeah.
And I almost find it a little bit disrespectful. I don't mind entrepreneurship and giving it a go. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
But she was almost like, not dogging me, but definitely like looking down on me that because I didn't buy it. I was like, man, I've trained 3,000 agents. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, not trying to be an idiot about it, but I was like, yeah, probably not really for me. And then the worst thing is the thing that I have a problem with that positioning is people will spend $1,600 that they can't afford on a product that is quite shit.
That's the thing.
And you obviously it's like, until, yeah, it's like spending 45 grand and thinking you're going to get an Audi and you get a Hyundai. Now, there's nothing wrong with the new Santa Fe Hyundai. Drive away for whatever price it is.
Of course.
But, it's not ideal to think you're going to get a European car and get a Hyundai.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm fairly new to LinkedIn, but I get it all the time. Someone will send me a new request, and straight away, as soon as I accept, they hit me with a message. Bam, trying to sell me something, or the service is like, I don't really, you don't know me. At least give me that brief introduction.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you know that you can fix my problem?
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like that's what sales is all about. If you can fix a problem that I've got, but you can't sell me something that you don't even know what I do. How do you know? Like, I understand that if you're, Yeah, I agree. And there is one industry that hits you up all the time: SEO, web design. That they, for some reason, they're like straight in there. I don't know who their mentors are, but they just go straight in for the. It's just a very low. Either you're gonna get a low hanging fruit, or low yield on your returns. So
Yeah. This topic's, this whole category is really interesting, but do you also, I'm sure you self-invest, but do you still think it's important after 15 years of business?
Yeah, I go through phases where I dig deep heavily into audiobooks and reading and those sort of things. And then I kind of think my brain fills up a little bit, and then I like just activate and kind of let it, go from conscious to unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that you're always upskilling yourself. It's quite easy when you've got a team around you because you need to stay ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
But from the sales industry, from the question before, where do I think that the sales has changed? Yeah, I think the sales has changed a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't think sales training has changed at all.
So are you when you're learning new things, are you going into that learning phase that you talked about, wanting to learn about a certain, thing, or is it, just to recalibrate your mind and maybe?
Yeah, it's just to extend your vocabulary and what you know and the conversations you're having with people. It's to keep your mind active and boredom is not where, and I think for any business owner or entrepreneur, let's say, I don't even like that word entrepreneur, even though it's I understand the concept of it, but entrepreneur, anyone with a laptop and a cafe with an idea apparently is an entrepreneur these days.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they're unemployed, but anyway. And I'm not against that entrepreneurial focus and plight, but what I am is, again, the positioning,
Yeah, definitely.
So.
No, the reason I asked that question before is because, I've found myself in the trap too. At one time I've invested in 5-10 different courses, digital marketing and SEO and sales. And I think a lot of people listening to have probably found themselves in that position too, which, you probably know best hand, just to focus on one thing. Maybe you have a different opinion on that, but a lot of people that I know at least fall into that trap of trying to be the jack of all trades, I guess you could call it.
Well, under 30, if you're the jack of all trades, you don't know enough about anything. And that's not disrespectful. Just you haven't spent 10 years in one industry, right? So it's like running a cafe for 6 months and going, cool, I know a cafe. Well, just because you're a barista doesn't mean that you know how to run a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just took the coffee. Do you know what I mean? You don't know about product lines and, sourcing and suppliers and costings and wages and rosters, So a lot of people think that they're going to learn by osmosis. It doesn't kind of work that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because I'm in this environment, just because you work in a boardroom doesn't mean you can be a CEO one day.
Yeah, right? Definitely. Because I think a lot of people focus on the technical skills of running a business, sales and those sorts of things. But a lot of people forget, like you just mentioned, about the back end stuff, how to actually just register a company or write a check or,
cash flows. Yeah, cash flow when your coffee shop, for instance, is not doing so well and suppliers are chasing you, and there's a different feeling as a business owner when you owe 10 grand in suppliers and you've got $2,000 coming in 1 week and there's no cash flow. That's you got to try and dig yourself out of that hole. So what do you do? And you can either ask your parents for more money or work out how to have a better business.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Right.
Normally we learn a lot faster through pain, but pain in business is very expensive. So, and exactly. And then once confidence drops, then the morale of the team drops because you're the leader of the business.
Yeah.
Even though you think, well, because I pay them, they should be excited. That's the very 1980s top-down management approach, which I was actually talking to a client down here, a potential client, and they literally said, I said they were trying to get peak performance out of their staff, right? And they had 180 staff, 17 branches, huge. And they said to me, they said, I said, how are you guys doing at the moment? They said, when they perform, they're more motivated. I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic. That's like a result-based motivation, right? I said, how are you running it? Like, yeah. And they said, well, because they should perform, so they should be motivated. I said, how's that working for you? And they're like, well, so what if that worked, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, you know? They didn't appreciate that too much, which kind of proved my point that I was not going to be the right consultant for them because they wouldn't listen anyway.
Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that because I mean, it's a really conflicting topic. Do you go for, you know, every single client out there, or should you be really specific with yourself and who you work with? And that also comes down to whether you should. A lot of people, you know, try and drop their prices to meet the client. And what are your thoughts on, you know, being very specific who you work with?
I think when you're new in business, and this probably goes against what everyone else is going to say, because I've dealt with coaches and mentors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I've dealt with them like, this is your price, and if they can't pay for it, then that's their. Well, yeah, I understand that. I get that from a self-worth issue. I also understand it from a cash flow issue.
Yeah.
And if cash flow is not there, and you need to drop your price to get a client, then do that. But remember, it's not a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
So don't undercut your price so much that there's not much margin in it. And now that becomes your new benchmark of price.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was talking to Tony Quinn, the guy that used to own VIP Pet Foods, and Daryl Lee.
Yeah.
He was having lunch behind me. I'm like, anyway. And I went up to him and had a conversation. I thought, you know, might as well get for the next 30 seconds. And he asked me what I did. And, you know, obviously I knew his story. And he said, there's 3 things that you need to focus on when you're running a business. Number 1 is you need to have a great product. That made sense. Number 2, you need to have a brand that backs up that product, which means that your post sale process is good, returns, whatever. That's where most businesses fall down because their customer service, or there's something wrong in the brand that just kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
It's like the product of a meal at a restaurant is great, but the service sucks, or you can only get that meal once amazing and then the rest 2 times it's rubbish. Yeah. So, and then the last one is margins. So most people, and that's a big one for businesses where their margins are so skinny and so lean, there's nothing to eat. So at some point, you know, you need to make sure that you've got a great product, your brand backs up that product, and the margins are healthy. And he goes, that's it. I was like, well, that's pretty easy. Seems that the guy's built two companies from literally nothing. And Daryl Lee was losing money in the retail space for ages, and they just sold them both for over 200 plus mil. So that's it. He just said those 3 things. That's all he focuses on.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
It was, I was looking at one of your videos that you posted quite a while ago, and you were talking about leadership. And then the reason I mentioned that, because you touched on it before when you were talking with this business owner, how do you actually, as someone, you know, that's in control of a team, how do you master leadership? Because I think it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. Most people can't even lead themselves.
Yeah.
Right? There's a couple of different stages of leadership. Number 1 is lead yourself. That's number 1. And you can't expect others to do more than what you're expected to do yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my first business mentors, she used to say to me, she goes, whatever's happening in your business is a reflection of you. And I was like, okay, that's quite confronting. Because, you know, people will be late to work, or they're not very punctual. And essentially something in there is undisciplined. So somewhere in your personal life, you're doing the same thing. And a reflection of you.
Yeah.
So somewhere you're missing targets, and somewhere you're missing date night, or somewhere you said you'd be home at 5:00 and now it's 5:30. Something in your life is doing the same thing. So that's number 1 for leadership. Number 2 is being able to lead others. So first of all is lead yourself. Second one is lead others. And then the third one is leading others into leadership. Right. Most people can't even do number 1, let alone stage 3, but they're trying to do stage 3, looking at everyone else and why everyone else is doing shit, and they're not even looking at themselves.
Yeah.
And essentially that is a reflection of them.
Yeah, and it's such a simple process, but like I've been there, like it's very hard at times to lead yourself, especially when
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Well, the challenge to that, and what I've said to business, you know, people before, is when things are good, everyone can be good. That's the easy part. I challenge you to be great when things are horrendous. That's when I challenge you to be great.
Yeah.
Because that is a true test of character.
Mm-hmm. Because I think you'll find, like you just mentioned, a lot of people when things are going great are happy and, you know,
That's easy,
joyful.
man.
But as soon as shit hits the fan, they start blaming others and,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Blame that I justify. It wasn't my fault. It's because of this. Yeah, but from a coaching point of view, is all the things that we hate hearing.
Mm.
You know, you give them a piece of advice, which is exactly what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And for me, when I work with clients, I will tell them, I'm very straight up and I won't tell you what you want to hear because it's not going to help you. I'll tell what you need to hear. And sometimes you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Right. But that's why you pay me. That's why
exactly.
I'm here. I'm not here to be your friend. And if we become friends, fantastic. But that's not what I'm here for. If you need friends, go to the coffee shop, meet someone next door, and go to your next door neighbor and meet them. That's not what you pay me for.
Yeah,
you know?
I completely agree with you on that. So just getting into, you know, your career and everything you've done, obviously you've helped a lot of people, like you talked thousands of agents before. What's your legacy continuing on, you know, with what you plan to do and maybe who you plan to help continuing, and what's your legacy that you want to have?
Yes. So with Spartan Business Academy, what we want to set up is essentially a platform where anything that a business owner needs, we will have, either in-house or external. And also, you know, I understand what it's like to fail in business.
Yeah.
I also understand what it's like to succeed beyond what thought was possible. You know, coming out of school, I did not do very well at school. You know, not very well. Like from what's happened and where I'm kind of headed, not what I've done. That's not, you know, but where I'm heading and even where I'm at today, it wasn't expected out of school.
Okay.
You know, that if you had known me at school and sort of my friends at school, the person that I am today is definitely a very, very different person, but needs to be.
Yeah.
Right? Thank God. But that evolution will continue. So for me, the legacy would be to help out as many small business owners as possible, or big businesses. It doesn't really matter. Anyone in business, because to me, I think of the ripple effect. One business owner has its own family, mortgages, and most businesses in Australia will close down at the end of a term, whatever that term is, and walk away, hopefully with no debt, sometimes a debt. If not, they lose their family home. That's 96% chance of happening in the first 7 years. And it hasn't changed in decades.
Yeah.
So the 4% that are left over that actually have a successful business in 7-10 years, only a very, very small single digits make it to $2 million.
Wow.
The rest is stuck at that, whatever the number is, way before that, which is fine. But essentially, most of these people have just bought themselves a very, very stressful job. That is not the dream, and that's not the brochure that I would think business ownership should be. But that's more often than not, that's what's going to happen.
Why do you think that is? Is it lack of getting a mentor or not mentor, but just someone who's been there, done that?
Yeah, that definitely can help. And there's no real excuse to not have someone like that these days. Just find someone that's good, that's actually had businesses, as opposed to a business coach that's only had a business coaching business. That doesn't make sense to me, right? Or someone it's like, and no disrespect, it's like a life coach that's 16 years old or 21 years old. Like,
yeah.
Man, you know, I take advice from people that have been there and done that. I can't take advice for family advice from a priest that's never been married with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Because how would you understand what I'm going through? Like, I don't know if you heard the bumps upstairs, but I heard 2 thuds and a scream. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that to me tells me that there has to be some understanding, and empathy is one thing.
Yeah.
I understand how you feel, but if you've actually walked in my shoes and you've gone through the miles and then you have an understanding of what we've gone through, right? So you need to have, I'd rather go into war with someone that has like a patch on his eye, no sleeves, he's got scars everywhere, and he's like, come on, let's go. You're like, are you joking? Let's go. Come on, you pussy, hurry up. As opposed to someone that's fresh and green and kind of like looks shell shocked when the first bullet goes past his head, the first bomb goes off and he hides in a ditch. Like, that is not where I'm going to war with, right?
Yeah.
I want someone that's harder than a veteran, you know? I also would be quite scared following that guy because he's crazy. But I need someone that's going to give me confidence that he's going to come back alive. You know, I've been on 21 tours. Hurry up, let's go. You're like, okay, 21, right? Well, something he's doing is much, much better than the guy that's crying in the corner asking when is he going to go home.
I completely agree with you. And you talked about it before, you know, with your legacy and helping people. I heard a Grant Cardone quote the other week where he said, you know, helping people, like, it's nothing to do with money with the stage he's at. Like, if he can genuinely help someone, he knows that he's actually contributed to their life. And as you talk about the ripple effect too of their wife, you know.
Yeah. And the staff members, their families, their extended families, you know, the beliefs that staff member has in the company owner that can potentially take them on a journey for the next 5-10 years. Now, generally speaking, people don't stay in the job this long, but I'm sure at 35, 45, 50, mate, that person is at 55 years old. If he's in a steady job, he's not really looking for the next job.
Yeah.
At 60, definitely not looking. And if it is, it's a massive jump into a CEO role, which for that middle ground, where most people play, that's not a conversation to be had.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, most people want security in their work. Most people don't want to have to find new jobs. In Adelaide, the wait time to find a new job is about 40 weeks.
Wow.
That's nearly a year, right?
Mm.
So, and I don't know how much Centrelink pays, but I don't think it's enough.
Probably not, no. So with everything that you plan on doing in the lives you want to continue to impact, let's just say 12 to 24 months from now, what goals do you want to smash?
You know what? I got asked this the other day. I honestly don't even know what I'm going to be doing in 5 to 12 months, in 12 to 24 months, because I didn't think I'd be working. Okay. Some goals that I'd like to do. I'd like to be in racing somehow in 24 months. I'd like
racing,
to,
as in
just having it in a team somewhere, maybe something like these guys over here. Yeah. I would like our digital signage IQ to be up and running, and literally it's essentially a piece of film that goes over glass, and will turn your transparent glass into privacy, keep it transparent, or you can actually show your content on there. So for car dealerships or retail outlets, or, you know, flight centers, I went past a holiday place like Phil Hoffman Holiday Travels. I was like, that would be good there to show like the cruise and essentially like the content on there would be paddock to plate type of style, so people actually get an experience. You know, the Myers and those sort of places could put Westfields and those things. So any piece of glass needs to have this stuff on there, so that'd be pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, just helping more businesses out, you know, working in the consultancy space, running workshops. I like having that, doing some solar. I'd like to do a solar farm. That'd be cool. A big solar farm would be good. Renewable energies, no brainer. We've got the land, we've got the sun. You know, electricity prices are top 10 in the world. Stupid, you know. So that to save people money in that space. There's actually actually, I'm gonna write that down because I need to get back to him. Thanks for reminding me. A proposal from a wholesale retail market where essentially we could get renters and business owners to buy space in a solar farm, and then they could use the solar and reduce their electricity, which is a pretty good model, which I don't think anyone's doing.
Mm-hmm. So if someone wanted to get, you know, business consulting from you, sales training, where could they go to find that?
Yeah, just the website's probably the best way to contact, or through Facebook is probably the best. This is probably medium through Facebook Messenger. That's probably the easiest way. JulianVanderbilt.com.
Yeah, and I'll pop all those in the description of this podcast. So it's been really great chatting with you. I've gained a lot of insight from it. You definitely have the experience, and I do respect people like you because you, like you said, you've been there and done that.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate, you know, your time and this chat. So
anyone can do that in 20 years of business, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So no, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.